What do you genuinely not understand? How so many fucking terrible commercials make it to TV. When I see a dumb commercial, my thought is always the same. Asterisk, a group of grown-ass people sat around a table somewhere and discussed how they want to promote their brand. They came up with an entire marketing strategy, probably had a vote about it, and sent approval onto the marketing department company for production. That marketing department created, scripted, filmed, and produced that piece of shit commercial. Then they sent it back to the group of grown-ass people who sat around the same table watching the shitty commercial before agreeing that it's sending the exact message they want about their brand. They likely then vote again to approve running it on TV. A huge budget is approved for putting that dumbass commercial out there. And the result is the piece of crap I just saw on TV. Asterisk. Yeah, I don't understand that. Are you know all those potato peelers that are made in any different way from the standard potato peeler that everybody has had since forever? How many engineers spent time designing that and making prototypes that went to QA and had a design review, standard and certification for food-grade materials were poured over? Collections of mandatory documentation about production and materials were carefully collected and stored. A committee approved it, and it went to production engineers who was tasked to do the tooling, which probably resulted in design changes that went back and got more QA and final go-ahead. Samples was sent out to convention and consumer goods fairs. Salespeople stood in at both and offered representatives from large retail chains quotes for 100K units over 12 months' time. Deals were struck, contracts signed, money were put in escrow accounts. Designers made packaging and created logotypes and sent brand names to be stamped in the production facility. Instruction and labels were translated to the local language by technical writers. Logistic people pored over shipping and made sure it had all the correct numbers and barcodes. Retail worked printed labels and stacked the shelves. Not once did anybody take the time to stop and say, "Hey, I actually tried to peel a potato with this and it didn't really work." Like at all. In a lot of cases, whether or not a product works is secondary to whether it looks good on shelves. Potato peelers are a saturated market. Everyone already has one, and they last close to forever. But a different peeler with packaging that convinces you that it will work better than the one you've got, that's a fresh market. Whether or not it works is immaterial. You just have to get people to buy it and make it cheap enough to be not worth returning but instead live in the back of the junk drawer forever. To make the problem worse, a single piece of cheap molded plastic with one flimsy razor is way cheaper to mass produce than an actually good product, and it's really hard to improve on the current design. Repeat with every kitchen product ever and you get aisles and aisles of cheap plastic kitchen products that don't work. You've just outlined 50% of everything wrong with modern society. Why I hate going to sleep and also hate waking up. Edit. I know people hate edits, but I didn't think this would murder my inbox and I don't have time to reply to every single person. So, I'm not depressed. I used to be, for several years. But a few years ago I got better. Didn't just happen overnight obviously, but I'm not gonna go into detail about it here. I'm much happier now and enjoy life a lot more. But I still hate my sleep schedule. I keep trying to get it somewhat normal, but it keeps getting fucked up. Maybe anxiety is a part of it, but I doubt that is the sole reason. I don't hate change, for the most part. It depends on the change, but I don't think that applies here. I'm not a toddler. Kinda wish I was though sometimes. I've tried using melatonin and other sleep aids. Sometimes it works but not always. Doesn't matter how early I go to bed. I will lay in bed for 6 hours and not be able to go to sleep until 7 in the morning. I've had this problem for almost a couple decades now and in multiple settings. When I was in high school, when I had a full-time job, and now that I'm going back to school and have a part-time job. I didn't know hating get in and out of showers was thing. But apparently it is. What a bunch of weirdos. Seriously though, I just think it's very nuanced and there are multiple factors that contribute to it. I'd like to have a sleep study done, but it's so difficult to find the time to do so right now. And to all my fellow sleep haters, unite, or not. We'd probably be a terrible team. Being tired and sleeping at odd times and whatnot. How perfect strangers make small talk. And how they know when to end the conversation without it dragging on awkwardly. The word AA anyway seems to work to segue to the end of a conversation. I used to be a lawyer and had 4 steps on my time to finish this consultation ladder. 1. Okay then. 2. Okay then, again. But this time slapping the table gently with both hands. 3. Stand up. 4. Walk from behind desk. Past client and open door. Only one client ever stayed sitting past step 4. It was horrible. I was powerless to defeat him. He stayed another 15 minutes. Trying to teach me positive energy moves from his own brand of Tai Chi. People who take personal offense when your taste in music, movies, food, whatever differs from theirs. I went to college with a guy who listened to exclusively classic rock. Great genre. Totally get it, except he would get legitimately angry when someone put on rap in the car or wanted to sing Pop It. Karaoke. Refused to work with a friend of mine in a group project because she loved techno. Said her opinions would never matter because obviously something was wrong with her. Why can't you just let people enjoy the shit they like? It's a form of elitism that makes themselves feel better and more cultured or intelligent than the people around them. It's dumb. I mean, look at the other comments on this post about people liking celebrities. It's the same shit. Sometimes when I'm just sitting there, I become hyper-aware of my senses and then the whole concept of existence just confuses the fuck out of me. Edit. Look mom. No hands. Or when you're brushing your teeth or washing your face and you stare at yourself in the mirror too long and you're just like, whoa, this is me. But I'm actually me and I see me. And you go into a mini existential crisis about you being you. And then you forget it happened. It's like when you're reading a word over and over and it starts losing all meaning. Except that instead of a word, it's you. How language developed. Obviously it did, but I just can't fathom how. I just picture cavemen walking and pointing to things and grunting. Asterisk, asterisk, sorry for the edit, but my typo was driving me crazy. That's basically it. They made sounds to refer to stuff and people caught on and used the same sounds and understood through context and repetition what each other meant. And it built and spread from there. I imagine early communication started with things like, hey, relax, I'm not gonna kill you, come here, look, food, tasty animal, danger. All things that are kind of obvious what is intended to convey in context, and with pointing at the thing is you make a sound. Nothing. Like the whole concept of nothing boggles my mind. What was here before our universe? Nothing. What's in between the atoms of our bodies? Nothing. What's for dinner? Nothing. I just don't get it. Just because we can't perceive something, it doesn't mean it's nothing. That off vibe you get when you go to an empty parking lot or an IKEA. For those curious as to what I mean, check these subs out. Are the night feeling? Are dead malls? And are true backrooms? How people believe 5G causes coronavirus. Saw some lady on our local news station's Facebook page going off about that. 5G is 10,000 times the power of 4G. Quote, coronavirus has already caused testicle problems in men akin to high doses of radiation. I'm not going to reveal my sources. I did my research. Do your own. Greater than, I'm not going to reveal my sources. I did my research. Do your own. Ah yes. The standard approach of every scientist. Guys that hit each other in the nuts for fun. WTF is with that. I watched an interview with Steve-O and he says fans want him to kick them in the nuts and are so happy and thank him when he does. I think it's more the hitting that's supposed to be fun, not the being hit. Obviously it's a bit different with asking Steve-O, cause he's famous from Jackass. The person wants a cool story. Steve-O kicked me in the balls. An important note: when hitting your mates in the balls, you're supposed to do it lightly. It's about the reaction, not trying to cause them permanent damage. Of course that might happen accidentally anyway, but people doing it don't generally realize that. The process of thought. How we can make so many decisions in a split second. Internal dialogue is crazy. Does everyone have the same sort of inner thoughts? Do animals have internal dialogue? When I think about it, it blows my mind. Oh man, I had a fucking existential crisis recently, when I started thinking about how my thoughts just popped into my head and I actually have no control of what I think. Like, I don't decide to think something. I just do. How the fuck do brains even work? Do I even have free will? Am I just a biological machine running calculations based on previous experience? Not to get too crazy, but man, this shit weirds me out whenever I think of it. Greater than I actually have no control of what I think. Intrusive thoughts are this concept on steroids. Imagine having no control of your thoughts, and your brain assaults you with all of the worst things possible at all, or random times. How the global economy runs. There's a room with different options arranged in a circle on the floor, and every time some decision has to be made, some important people cut off a chicken's head and drop it onto the circle. The chicken walks around while a kazoo plays. Whichever option the chicken lands on is the correct decision. People that will flip you off or yell at you when they are the ones doing the wrong thing. One time my daughter was getting off the bus and crossing the street when a car came barreling down the road running the bus stop sign. I ran out into the road in front of my child, held up my hand and screamed, "Stop." The lady flipped me off. Like, fucking seriously? I saved you from killing a child, my child, and you flipped me off. I won't go into the details of what I did next. I wasn't proud. Edit. To add what I did and some more details. This lady did this a few times a week. I was ready for her. My daughter wasn't the only one crossing. I just had a feeling I would encounter her that day. Okay, so I started screaming at her because I was in shock that instead of her saying "OMG, I am so sorry," she flipped me off. She continued to flip me off and started screaming at me as I was yelling at her that she would have ran over my daughter. I ran up to her door where her window was open and started grabbing at her, trying to pull her out through the window and at the same time trying to open her door. I was seriously pulling her out as she was trying to get her window up. She finally got her window up and pulled her door back shut. I was screaming curse words and whatever else. I really can't tell you. Yelling at her to get out of the car and banging on her window. She finally sped away and I stood there in the middle of the street, and all the other moms, the bus driver, and a bus full of kids were just staring at me. I felt stupid for cursing in front of all the kids and losing it. The bus driver called me over and said as I was trying to kill her he got her license plate and was going to report her. So at least that happened. But yeah, I am super non-confrontational. But when somebody does something like that, I have no problem going off, I guess. I'm a physics teacher and I'm embarrassed to say that despite reading several explanations, I still don't understand how batteries work. Specifically, if one end of the battery basically houses excess electrons and the positive side has a dearth of electrons, why doesn't connecting two batteries but not in a closed circuit cause half of each battery to drain? I'm not a battery expert, but I'll take a stab. It's not true that one terminal of a battery has excess electrons, while the other terminal has a deficit of electrons. They are both charge neutral. Batteries have an anode and a cathode separated by an electrolyte. As the battery is discharged to power something, not only do electrons flow from the anode to the cathode through an external circuit, positively charged ions flow from the anode to the cathode through the electrolyte. The electrons and ions reunite at the cathode. It takes energy to charge up a battery, and we get energy out when it discharges, because the ions and electrons are more chemically stable at the cathode. In a lithium-ion battery, the kind I'm most familiar with, the anode is unusually graphite. The cathode is a lithium metal oxide. In the charged-up state, the lithium atoms are stored in the layers of graphite. They aren't very happy about that, and would prefer to go home to the lithium metal oxide at the cathode. When the anode and cathode are connected through an external circuit, lithium atoms are ionized. The electrons go through the circuit, and the lithium ions diffuse through the electrolyte, and they are reunited at the cathode. When you just connect two batteries together, positive to negative, nothing happens because the anode and the cathode are charge neutral. For electrons to be exchanged, there would have to be a channel for ions to be exchanged too, and there's not. Greater than they aren't very happy about that, and would prefer to go home, same TBH. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.